I'm Brian Klontz, President of the Emergency Assistance Foundation, and this is part 2 for emergency assistance funds for emergency hardship and disaster relief. In this segment, we're going to discuss the tax considerations, the operational decisions, and the compliance requirements to successfully operate an emergency assistance fund. The first section really is to talk about the tax considerations. This is a very difficult area, frankly, because the tax considerations really lean on the issue whether or not the employer controls the charitable group. So if an employer creates their own fund and fund it with their own assets, they control the board, they control the selection committee, the IRS deems that to be an employee benefit. And if that's an employee benefit, then any grant recipient who receives a grant would all have that as taxable income. And whether that's a private foundation or a public foundation, it really has the same effect. Instead, if the employer uses a third-party arm's-length public charity to administer the funds, to collect the contributions, to make the legal determination on who receives grants, in that case, the contributions are fully deductible and the grant recipient receives that award completely income tax free. So after the employer group has made a decision on the type of structure that would be ideal given the tax considerations and other design considerations that they might have, the next are the operational decisions. And that's really code for who's going to do the work and how will it be designed and implemented. So who within the employer group will take the lead, who will develop the staff and the expertise, who will develop the funding plan, and actually implement the Emergency Assistance Fund within the overall organization. A critical component as well of the operating decision is the selection committee that's created within the organization to both create the design of the grant application process itself, namely, is it going to be only for disaster relief or will it also be for personal hardship? And if it is for personal hardship, what specific personal hardships will it be for? There are a list of 12 different hardships that qualify under IRS rules. And finally, what would be the maximum grant allowed? So determining the design of the program, both from the grant application, the vetting, the people who will be doing the vetting, that all is a critical component of the operational decision making to have a successful program. So the last topic will be compliance, certainly everyone's most fun topic to discuss, and it really comes in two forms. One would be at the IRS level, so federal compliance, and the second level would be at the state level. So starting with the federal level first, the key is to fully understand IRS publication 3833, which actually fairly clearly goes through all of the compliance required to operate the fund, both from the deductibility standpoint as well as making sure that the entity is structured so that the recipients receive funds tax-free. For a quick example, there are a number of funds that are created as qualified disaster relief funds that in fact can be tax deductible and tax-free to the recipient, even if they are employer sponsored and controlled under a very precise set of conditions. So if those conditions are met, then that could be compliant for tax purposes. However, if any of those conditions are not met, or if the company wants to be able to provide broader support for hardship, more personal hardship that is not a deemed qualified disaster, and technically that actually is a presidentially declared qualified disaster, then reviewing publication 3833 is critical to ensure compliance. The second set of compliance is the state compliance. If you're doing any kind of fundraising at all within the corporation, through employees or from the employer directly, you must comply with state registration requirements to be able to register in each state where you have an employee making a contribution. In some cases, this can add $10,000 to $12,000 of annual compliance at startup, and then you have to provide additional documentation each year to each state to maintain that registration. So I hope this has been helpful, at least in the part 2 of this series, in better understanding the tax considerations, the operational decisions, and the compliance requirements of a successful emergency assistance fund.